Have you ever had an argument with yourself and lost? Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the Halo Master Chief Collection Season 8 armor. For anybody that doesn't know, in the upcoming Season 8 of the Master Chief Collection, 343 decided to add in some new armor to Halo 3 and to a lesser extent Halo Reach. And so in this video we're going to be taking a look at the armor. We're going to be talking about whether or not we think it belongs in Halo or not, which is, for me, it's kind of an interesting story because where I am now is totally different than where I was when it first came out. But before we get into that, let's take a look at the armor itself and kind of talk about it. Now, I will say that recording this video, I recorded the gameplay and then I'm doing the commentary afterwards, so it may not match up perfectly. I'll try to get it as close as I can, but it may be off. So, but with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at it and see what we think. So if you go to the Halo Waypoint website and go under news and then cannon fodder, there's an article under cannon fodder called Myths and Mysteries, which talks all about this new armor. And it shows off some images of the new helmets, which I'll post on here so that we can talk about them. But what's cool is it has the category name, the actual name, and then a little bit of lore, because according to 343, these three new categories of armor are part of three new fractures, or I guess are like alternate dimensions, and so they have their own little lore that goes along with them. It's not a lot, it's just a sentence for each one, but it's kind of cool, so we'll go over that. So we'll start off with the first category, which is called Belos. Now in the game, Belos is the name of the first helmet, but on the website the first helmet is actually Belos Heron, and this helmet is your classic Spartan helmet. It's actually what my channel logo looks like, and it's also what I used as my Halo emblem for years and years and years, and anytime I can use that, that's what I use, which is the classic from the side profile Spartan helmet. You got the mohawk that goes from front to back. And I did a little research on the names and the words themselves. I knew some of it was ancient Greek, so I wanted to take a look at it and see what it meant. So for Belos, Belos is, from what I found, just a word for Lord. Heron, I couldn't really find much on Heron other than Hera, who is the wife of Zeus and queen of the gods. So maybe Belos Heron mean follower or worshiper of Hera. The lore that goes along with it says, straight and true, the chosen are honed and sharpened into a weapon thrust straight into the heart of Lacedaemon's enemies. Now, I thought this was interesting because it says the chosen, which I'm assuming it's referring to the Spartans. So maybe in this universe, the Spartans are called chosen. And also it says into the heart of Lacedaemon's enemies. So I don't know if Lacedaemon is a person. I know in ancient Greece, Lacedaemon is a person. In ancient Greece, Lacedaemon was a mythical king of Laconia. Laconia is the island that Sparta is on, and there's statues of him in Greece and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting. Next we have Belos Syntrophos, and in the game it's actually called Transverse, not Syntrophos. But Syntrophos, as far as I could tell, there may be more to it. All I could find was the word fellow, so I don't know if that's accurate or not. But the lore says, chosen generals of Lacedaemon's mortal armies bear distinctive crests. And this is the classic Spartan commander helmet, where the mohawk goes left to right instead of front to back. It's the same helmet, it just looks, the mohawk is going a different direction basically. And then next we have Belos Karata. It says, goring horns are worn by chosen who abandon reason and assistance of others. So I guess this is more of like a lone wolf style soldier. And again, same helmet, except this time it has what looks like ram's horns coming off. And karata translates in ancient Greek directly to horns, so it makes sense. Next we have Belos Leonticardos, which is basically looks like a lion's head with the person's helmet or face mask inside of the mouth, which is pretty cool looking. And the lore says, a rare few chosen live long enough to become transfigured, their bodies recast into forms more suitable for eternal war. Leonticardos actually means, when I looked it up, lion-hearted. So again, that makes sense, being that it's a lion head. Belos Atheno says, chosen who succumb to bitterness are blessed and cursed to never walk a path of peace. And as you can tell, this is like a Medusa helmet. And that makes sense because Athena was the eldest of the Gorgons, and Gorgons are like Medusa, basically these characters that are these beings that have snakes for hair, and if you look at them, their gaze turns you to stone. Then we have Belos Cerberus. Cerberus was the three-headed dog that guarded the gates of Hades. Hades was basically like hell in ancient Greece, and also Hades was the god that ruled the underworld. It says, the chosen who guard the chthonic slip gates and initiated into their mysteries have no mortal ties, no binding vows, and no doubts. So pretty cool helmet, 3 faces on it like Cerberus, the three-headed dog. And then that's it for the ancient Greek or the Belos set. Next we have the Blackguard set, and Blackguard, according to 343, is like a medieval or dark gothic. So right off the bat, we see the first one, which in the game is just called Blackguard, but here it's called War Feast, and it just looks like a classic knight helmet. And the lore says, bitterness and pride alloyed into frozen iron. Next we have Blackguard Tearful Bishop, which this one's been memed pretty hard online because it looks like a crusader from the ancient days. It's got the cross as a visor, basically. And it says, the faith of the newly converted burns bright enough to consume any truth. So obviously the cross is intentional. Pretty cool looking helmet though. Next we have Blackguard Forsaken Dragon. It says, there is no fall from grace, only an awakening in reality. And this one's pretty cool too. It's got a dragon's head coming down over the top center of the helmet, and then what looks like wings wrapped around coming down to the front sides. So that's pretty cool looking. Then we have Blackguard Carrion Crow. Now this is another one where what it says on the website is different from in the game. On the website it says Carrion Crow, and then on the game it says Carrion Wind. So I'm not sure what the reason for changing that was, but the lore says some are born to taste ill winds. And this is kind of your classic medieval medicine man mask where it has the long beak. If I remember correctly, they did that because they would put like herbs and stuff in the end of it to try to act as a filter for the air because of all the disease and stuff like that. The next one is Blackguard Sorrowful Visage. It says, fear can be honed to a sharpness keener than any blade. And it's just a skull with a hoodie. And then the last is Blackguard Ashen Crown. And this is my favorite of this set because it looks like the Skull King emblem from the old Halo games. It's pretty, just a skull with a crown on its head. It's pretty cool looking. It says, it is better to rule in the shadows than serve in the light, which sounds like kind of an old play on that old edgy saying of it's better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. And then the last set is the Dranger set, and it's a Norse kind of Viking set. And so the first one is called Dranger Skald on the website, and the game is just Dranger. But Dranger means warrior in Old Norse, and Skald means poet. So I thought that was warrior poet. Thought that was pretty cool. The lore for it is the shapeless horrors strike at the mind just as viciously as they do the body. And then we have the Dranger Valdemar, which is the same helmet, but it's got horns coming off the sides. Looks like bull horns. And it says, war demands sacrifice of treasure and blood. The trick is to make sure that it's not yours. And from what I could find, Valdemar translates to renowned prince, or means renowned prince. Next we have Dranger de Valen, which is again the same helmet, but this time it's got what looks like deer antlers. It says, the great beasts who browse among the limbs of the world tree inspire art and song. And de Valen, from what I could find, means dormant one, or the one slumbering. And then it says one of the 4 stags of Yggdrasil. And I'm sure I butchered that word, but that makes sense. One of the 4 stags. That stags have antlers, so there you go. Next is probably my favorite in this set, which is Dranger Nari. And it says, some tricks and jests are worth any price, which makes sense because if you notice, the horns look like Loki from, probably most people would know him from the MCU, but Nari is a son of Loki, so that makes sense why it looks like that and talks about tricks and jests. Next we have Dranger Thera. It says, it is the highest of honors for a lore spinner to spark hope in the darkest of nights. And this is basically the same one as the Nari, but it has what looks like wings coming off of the sides of the helmet. And from what I could find, Thera was a Danish queen, and it means thunder warrior or dedicated to the god Thor, which makes sense because in the old comics and stuff, Thor his helmet had wings coming off the side, so that's kind of cool. And then last we have Dranger Tyr. It says, loss and sorrow are fuel for the teller of tales. And it's basically got horns that come off the sides, and then what looks like kind of like a beard with a rubber band around it at the bottom. And Tyr is the Norse god of war, so that's pretty cool. So that's pretty much it for the helmets. There's other artwork and stuff that they shared on the website that I'll put up on here to show off. And they got an interview with one of the guys that helped design all this stuff. It's pretty cool, so give that a check out. Now there's more than just the helmets. They did armor pieces, you know, shoulders, arms, chest, legs, all that stuff. Now I do really like how they kept with the theme of the helmets carrying over into the individual armor pieces. So like with the dragon, you get the dragon shoulder blades or shoulder pieces. And then with the ram, you get the ram shoulder pieces and all that. I think it really helps to flesh out and kind of complete the set, because the helmets on their own just don't do it. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But I think that especially once you get to playing around with like the different colors and everything that are available, that you can come up with some really cool looking suits, or sets. But I definitely think that the Norse set or the Dranger set is my favorite overall, like just all the pieces coming together. I do like the Belos or the Spartan set a lot, but not quite as much. And then the Blackguard is, I don't dislike it, but it's my least favorite, especially on the armor. It has like the regular pieces, then it just has like the little spines for it, and I don't really care for that much. I guess they're meant to look like bones or something, you know, but not really my favorite kind of. But I mean, it's a dark gothic, so it's supposed to look like that. But the Norse is definitely my favorite, especially with like the fur. You know, you can get the fur on all the pieces, so I know it's not very practical on Spartan armor, but I definitely think it's cool looking. And I like the little V, or the Lacedaemon symbol, I guess that's what that is, of the Spartan armor. I like that, how they carried that theme over, even if you have the chest piece without the lion on it. In the center, it has the little Spartan symbol on it. But again, the overall, the Dranger set, the Norse set, to me is the coolest looking, especially with that Nari helmet that looks like a Loki helmet, and it's got that huge faceplate or visor. And so if you have one of the visor effects, you can really see it on there. I'm not a fan of the toes on the leg pieces. They look, I guess they're meant to be like claws, but which, I mean, goes along with the lion theme, but I don't care for that much. And again, here, back to what I keep saying, even on the legs, I think the Norse is the coolest looking. It's got the spikes on it and everything. So they did back accessories, some cool back accessories. There's a shield, another kind of Covenant looking shield. They've got big claymore sword. They did a hammer. They did an axe that's kind of reminiscent of Kratos' axe in that new God of War game. There's a bow, there's a spear, there's a trident, a couple of different shields, kind of wooden style shields. And then they've got also like a double-bladed battle axe, which is pretty cool looking. Got like a skull in the middle. Then they've got a mace, like a spiked mace. It's pretty cool. And there's actually like 3 new shields, or 4 if you count the Covenant one. So they got several of those. They did a bunch of new visors with actual like effects in them, so that color moves around in them and stuff like that. And some of these are pretty wild. One of them looks like the ocean. One looks like lava. One of them looks like kind of like a grid type of thing. One looks like RGB on your computer. The one I ended up settling on, I think, was the last one. It was the one, it was kind of red, and then it just had like a subtle shimmer that would come across it. I felt like that was the most subtle of the group. I don't really want a visor that's gonna like jump out like crazy. Like, I like the skull, like the Inheritor and Reach, but that's about it. I don't want it to be too crazy, like blinding everybody. Of course, I guess that could be an advantage in battle, but I mean, they're cool. I'm sure there's people that really like them. They did some new track suits, which is the suit that the Spartans wear underneath the actual armor that actually touches their body. And then the last bit of customization stuff that I want to cover are the Halo Reach helmets. And the Halo Reach helmets are interesting because 343 decided to only put the helmets in Halo Reach. They didn't put any of the armor or the other customization stuff in there, just the helmets. And I think this is actually negative for Reach, because Reach is the one game where you can see your custom Spartan in the cutscenes. So when you have these cutscenes, and I recorded some video to kind of show you a comparison, but when you have these cutscenes with your custom Spartan in there with these wild looking helmets, they look out of place because the rest of the armor doesn't match. And that's one of the things I was talking about earlier, where the armor pieces, the chest and the arms and all that stuff that match the sets, kind of help complete the look. So in Reach, we just get just the helmet. And so because you can see that stuff in cutscenes, you have situations where your character's just sitting there and they got this big crazy looking helmet on, and the rest of their armor just looks like regular Spartan armor. So I feel like that was definitely a missed opportunity on 343's behalf. It makes the Reach armor almost feel like an afterthought, which is a shame. I would have loved to see the full sets in Reach. They didn't, and they don't have to do like the back accessories or the visors or any of that stuff even, which I thought was odd because Reach does have custom visors and they didn't even do that. So, but if they had just had the armor, the rest of the armor pieces, then that would have gone a long way to making the cutscenes not look so awkward and jarring. But as it stands, the helmets just look kind of out of place. And then on top of that, because Reach is a newer game, graphically the armor actually looks better. You get that kind of classic worn, you know, everything in Reach kind of had that like scuffed up, worn look, you know, like it'd been used. But there's more detail, like you'll notice in the helmets that have horns, there's a little more detail in the horns, just overall more detail in it. So, you know, I would love to see the rest of the armor pieces with that added graphical fidelity in there to really show us what it could look like. But again, as it stands, this is what we got. So I'm not sure why they just, like I said, I think maybe it was just a last minute deal. Hey, let's just throw it in Reach or whatever. But it definitely feels like a missed opportunity. I think they could have went all the way, and maybe they were planning or are planning to in the future. We'll see. I'd love to see it added in a future season. But that's it for the Reach armor. And they even did a new map, new multiplayer map, which is crazy. It's a remake of Turf from Halo 2, but they put it in Halo 3. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they made the decision to do that. And it's cool because it's faithful to the original, but it looks new. You know, it's made in the Halo 3 engine, I'm assuming. It looks like Halo 3 graphics. It's got its own look to it, but it is the original map. And I actually went and played both to do a comparison. And I'll put the video of both up so you can kind of see for yourself. But even the weapon layouts and weapon types, depending on the game mode, are the same. So I thought that was pretty cool. Now, as far as the in-game models in multiplayer, it's really hard to tell unless you just stop and get right up on like a teammate or something, or look at somebody after you kill them or after they die. But in multiplayer, the action's moving so fast that it's really hard to notice what somebody's armor looks like. I mean, you can notice, but you're focused more on getting kills or not getting killed than you are somebody's armor most of the time. So I think as far as that goes, it's not really a factor one way or the other. So now to get to the big question. Does this new armor belong in Halo? And like I said at the outset of the video, I had kind of an argument with myself over this, because I was sure when it first was announced and everybody was talking about it and everybody had opinions. You had people defending it, you had people attacking it, some people hated it, said it didn't belong in Halo, some people loved it and said it looks awesome. And I was definitely in the camp of doesn't belong in Halo in the beginning. And I can say now that most of that was because of nostalgia goggles and me just being stuck on the whole Bungie versus 343. I try not to do that, but I'm guilty of it too, you know. And so there was a lot of that going on, and I didn't want to like it. And I knew I liked it, but I kept telling myself I didn't like it for this reason or another, mostly because I just didn't feel like it looked like it belonged in Halo. And I still stand by that for the most part. I mean, it looks pretty different. It's definitely not something that we're used to seeing. But the reason that I came around to accepting it and liking it versus how I felt in the beginning was because when I kind of stepped back and looked, and I was like, you know, I mean, they've already done remakes where they literally just remade the whole game. And I realize that that's just graphical and sound and stuff like that, but it's still, you're basically putting your hand. I'm sure that 343 feels like Halo 1 Anniversary and Halo 2 Anniversary are their games, even though they're ultimately running Bungie's code, they did the anniversary editions, so they still feel some ownership over those games. And so, taking that into consideration, the new stuff that they added, and of course they've already added skins, and they've weapon skins, vehicle skins, visors, stuff like that. Some armor pieces, I think. I could be wrong. Let me know if I'm wrong. But they've done a lot already, and you can go in the menu and turn that stuff off. And I knew that from the jump, and I was still against it in the beginning. But ultimately, I really do like the armor. I like the way it looks. I think it's cool looking. I think it was smart of them to do the fractures, which is another thing that I didn't like at first. I thought that was silly, and that they shouldn't be getting into this whole multiverse thing. But like I said, it's not that big a deal. It's something new in a game that, honestly, as a huge Bungie fan, I can tell you that if Bungie was still in control of these games, you would not get anything new from these games ever. Because as much as I love Bungie, they do not revisit old games. I've been wanting some kind of something like a remake or a remaster or a new game or something on the Marathon series forever, and I don't think that's ever going to happen. So that's because of the studio head, Jason Jones, the founder of the company. He designs all their games. So, and he comes up with the game, he designs it, and then they make the game, and then he moves on. So as soon as they make the first game, he's off to working on what the next IP is going to be. And you'll hear him joke in interviews where he's like, somebody will say something about a game, and he'll be like, "Oh, I don't remember that game," because that's the way he is. He has to move on to the next thing. So if it wasn't for 343 and Microsoft, if Bungie solely owned Halo whenever they left, there would not be any more Halo games, because they would have made Destiny, and that's it. They don't revisit old games. So in that regard, it's good that we've got 343 doing this. So I'm not mad about it. I'm fully embracing it at this point. I think the armor looks cool, especially that Norse armor with the fur. It looks so awesome. I love it. And unfortunately, I read just a couple of days ago that because of Infinite coming out, which I should have expected this, but 343 said that they're not going to be doing the timed seasonal updates for Master Chief Collection anymore. They didn't outright say that we weren't going to get anything. They just said that they won't be on a tight schedule or a hard time schedule anymore. So hopefully we'll still get new stuff, but we'll see. But I mean, everybody might forget about the Master Chief Collection if Infinite is a home run and they're able to really just nail it, especially with because I played the flight, the technical preview, and that was solid. I like all the changes they made there. That felt really good. So if they can really nail the campaign, then I really feel like they'll have a hit on their hands, and people, because I feel like people really grasp on to the Master Chief Collection. Not to say that people don't love the original Halo games. God knows I do. I'm a huge fan of the original Halo games. But I feel like if people feel like they have something new to play that's really good from 343, then they'll be less concerned with the new stuff coming to Master Chief Collection. So like I said, to answer my own question, do I think this stuff belongs? I'm gonna say yeah. I think it's fine. I think the argument about whether or not it belongs is kind of you can go one way or the other. I mean, obviously it doesn't look like anything that's ever been in Halo, and it looks way out of place. So it's easy to say it doesn't belong in Halo, but I mean, technically it's not, canonically it's not in Halo. They made the whole fractures and all that stuff. So you've kind of got that to fall back on. If you don't like it, you can always just turn it off. I know, and everybody keeps, and I've heard the argument, well, what if I like the back accessories, but I don't like the armor, and I want to turn off one thing but not the other. Well, maybe 343 will add that in at some point, but I think honestly, I think that most people, unless you're somebody that just hates all the new stuff that they've added to the game over time, like the skins and all that stuff, unless you're just somebody that hates all of that stuff, then I think once you get your hands on this new armor and start building sets and kind of playing with the different pieces and customizing it, I think you'll end up like I was, where I was dead set against it, and then once I spent time with it, I enjoyed it and I like it, and now I'm on board with it. So that's pretty much where I stand on it. I'd like to hear y'all's opinion. If you have an opinion at all, you care one way or the other, and you want to express it, feel free to do so in the comments. I'd love to hear everybody else's stance on it. I've read tons of articles and posts and whatnot on social media and the internet about people's opinions on it. But that's my opinion. I appreciate anybody that listened to the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, toss me a like. I appreciate it. If you want to see more of videos like this, I'm gonna try to do more commentary videos like this, where we just talk about stuff that's going on in the Halo community. But if you enjoy it, want to see more like that, then toss me a sub. I appreciate that. And that's pretty much gonna do it for this one. So until next time, have a good one.